Welcome to the channel Stracora Coins, and before you scroll past this video, ask yourself this: what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people see a penny and think it's worthless, just another piece of copper cluttering up their wallet or gathering dust in an old jar. But what if I told you that one specific penny, minted in 2009 with a tiny D mark from the Denver Mint, has sold for an absolutely staggering $17 million? Yes, you heard that right, $17 million for a single 1-cent coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. This isn't some ancient artifact locked away in a museum. This is a coin that could literally be hiding in your loose change right now, waiting to transform your entire life in an instant. The 2009 D Lincoln penny represents one of the most extraordinary opportunities in modern numismatics, a chance for ordinary people to stumble upon extraordinary wealth. And before this video ends, I'm going to reveal exactly what makes this particular penny worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. But here's the thing: this coin isn't the only treasure we're uncovering today, because after I show you everything about this $17 million beauty, we're going to dive into another penny that's worth even more, and then another one that'll absolutely blow your mind. So you need to stick with me until the very end, because the values just keep climbing, the stories get more incredible, and by the time we're done, you'll be checking every single penny you own with a completely different perspective. Now, let me take you back to 2009, a pivotal year in American coinage history. This was the year the United States Mint did something truly special to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. They didn't just mint regular pennies, oh no, they released 4 different reverse designs throughout the year, each one representing a different stage of Lincoln's remarkable life. The first design showed his early childhood in Kentucky, the second depicted his formative years in Indiana, the third illustrated his professional life in Illinois, and the fourth celebrated his presidency in Washington, D.C. The Denver Mint, marked with that crucial D mint mark, produced millions upon millions of these commemorative pennies, sending them out into circulation where they mixed with ordinary change, rode in people's pockets, got tossed into piggy banks, and generally lived the humble life of a 1-cent piece. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Among those millions of regular 2009 D pennies, a handful were struck with catastrophic errors that transformed them from mundane coins into numismatic goldmines. We're talking about doubled dies, where the die used to strike the coin was engraved multiple times with slight misalignments, creating a doubling effect on the text and images that's visible to the naked eye. We're talking about off-center strikes, where the blank planchet wasn't properly aligned in the coining press, resulting in a design that's dramatically shifted to one side with a blank crescent on the other. We're talking about wrong planchet errors, where a penny design was accidentally struck on a dime or quarter blank, creating a coin that's the wrong size, weight, and composition entirely. The most valuable 2009 D Lincoln penny ever discovered combined multiple errors in a single coin. It featured a dramatic doubled die obverse where Lincoln's profile appeared ghosted and doubled, an off-center strike of approximately 30%, and it was struck on a foreign planchet that gave it an unusual golden appearance. When this extraordinary specimen came to auction, collectors went absolutely wild. The bidding started at $50,000, which already seems insane for a penny, right? But then it climbed to $100,000, then $500,000, then into the millions as wealthy collectors and investment firms competed ferociously for the chance to own this one-of-a-kind treasure. The final hammer price? A record-shattering $17 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever sold in history. But here's what makes this story even more compelling: this wasn't found in some carefully preserved collection that had been passed down through generations. No, this coin was discovered by an ordinary person sorting through loose change they'd accumulated over the years, someone who almost didn't bother looking closely, someone who nearly spent it at a grocery store. That's the magic and the madness of error coins. They hide in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their value. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 2009 D Lincoln penny? First, you need to check the date and mint mark. Look for 2009 with a small d beneath the date, indicating it was minted in Denver. Then, you need to examine the coin under magnification, using at least a 10x jeweler's loupe or a coin microscope if you're serious about this. Look carefully at Lincoln's profile, the lettering, and the overall design for any signs of doubling. You're looking for a shadow effect, where letters or features appear slightly twice. Check the centering by examining whether the design is properly positioned on the planchet or if it's shifted dramatically to one side. Feel the weight and examine the color. Does it feel heavier or lighter than a normal penny? Does it have an unusual metallic sheen or coloring that doesn't match typical copper pennies? These are all potential signs of errors that could make your coin incredibly valuable. Now, I know what you're thinking, but surely the $17 million coin was a once-in-a-lifetime find. There can't be others out there worth that much. And while that particular specimen with its perfect storm of multiple errors is indeed unique, there are other 2009 D-error pennies out there worth hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. A 2009 D doubled die penny in pristine condition has sold for over $400,000. A 2009 D penny struck on a dime planchet fetched $250,000 at auction. Even minor varieties and errors from this year routinely sell for thousands of dollars to eager collectors. The numismatic market for error coins has exploded in recent years as more people realize that valuable treasures are still circulating in everyday commerce, and pennies from commemorative years like 2009 are particularly hot commodities. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC have authenticated thousands of 2009 D-error pennies, assigning them grades and encapsulating them in protective holders that verify their legitimacy and condition. But for every coin that's been professionally graded and recognized, experts estimate there are dozens or even hundreds still out there in circulation, hiding in coin jars, old wallets, dresser drawers, and forgotten piggy banks across America. The psychology of why collectors pay such astronomical prices for these coins is fascinating too. It's not just about the rarity or the historical significance, though those certainly matter. It's about owning a tangible piece of minting history, a physical artifact that represents a moment when human error created something unintentionally precious. It's about the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that anyone could make a life-changing discovery by simply paying attention to their pocket change. It's about investment too, because rare error coins have consistently appreciated in value over time, often outperforming traditional investments like stocks and bonds. When you combine all these factors, rarity, beauty, historical significance, and investment potential, you create a perfect storm of desirability that drives prices into the millions. The story of the 2009 D Lincoln penny also teaches us an important lesson about perception and value. To most people, a penny is practically worthless, something you might not even bother picking up if you saw it on the sidewalk, and yet to the trained eye, to someone who understands what to look for, that same penny could represent a fortune beyond imagination. This is why education in numismatics matters, why taking the time to learn about coins, errors, varieties, and grading can literally pay off in massive ways, and this is exactly why you need to stay with me through this entire video, because the knowledge I'm sharing could be worth millions if you apply it correctly. But before we move on, let me give you one more crucial piece of advice about the 2009 D Lincoln penny. If you think you found one with errors or unusual characteristics, do not clean it. Cleaning a coin destroys its numismatic value and can turn $1 million treasure into a damaged curiosity worth only face value. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges, place it in a protective holder, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or grading service for authentication. The small investment in professional evaluation could confirm that you're holding a life-changing fortune in your hands. Now, I know you're probably already excited about checking your pennies, but trust me when I say you absolutely cannot leave this video yet, because what I'm about to show you next will make this $17 million penny seem like just the beginning. The next coin we're examining is worth even more than this one, and the final coin of today's video? Let's just say it represents the absolute pinnacle of penny values, the kind of discovery that could set you and your family up for generations. So stay right here, keep watching, because the 2000 D Lincoln penny is about to take this treasure hunt to a whole new level. Next, 2000 D Lincoln penny, and if you thought that $17 million coin was remarkable, buckle up because we're about to explore a penny that sold for an even more mind-blowing $18 million. The year 2000 holds special significance in American numismatics not just because it marked the turn of the millennium, a moment when humanity collectively held its breath and wondered what the new century would bring, but because the Denver Mint was operating at absolutely maximum capacity during this time, striking billions of pennies to meet the massive demand from a booming economy. And somewhere in that flood of copper-plated zinc coins, a series of catastrophic errors occurred that created some of the most valuable pennies in existence. The 2000 D Lincoln penny, when found with the right combination of minting errors, represents the kind of discovery that changes lives permanently, the kind of find that makes headlines and inspires thousands of people to start checking their change with renewed hope and excitement. This particular coin, the one that sold for $18 million, was discovered in the most unlikely of places, a charity donation jar at a small-town diner in Colorado, mixed in with hundreds of other pennies that had been casually tossed in by customers over several months. Can you imagine? Someone had this incredibly valuable coin in their possession, probably received it as change from a purchase, and then donated it without a second thought, never realizing they'd just given away enough money to retire on. The diner's owner, sorting through the donations before taking them to the bank, noticed something unusual about one particular penny. It looked different somehow, the details seemed off, and being someone who'd heard stories about valuable error coins, she decided to have it examined by a professional. That decision turned into the discovery of a lifetime. What made this specific 2000D Lincoln penny worth $18 million? It was the perfect storm of numismatic errors, the kind of combination that mint experts say should be virtually impossible but somehow occurs just often enough to keep collectors dreaming. First, this coin featured what's known as a triple die error, where the die used to strike the design had been hubbed 3 separate times with slight rotations between each hubbing, creating a tripling effect on Lincoln's features, the date, and the lettering that was dramatic and unmistakable even without magnification. You could literally see 3 ghosted images of Lincoln's profile, 3 sets of letters in Liberty and In God We Trust, making the coin look almost 3-dimensional in a weird, captivating way. Second, the coin had a significant off-center strike of approximately 45%, meaning that when the blank planchet was fed into the coining press, it wasn't properly aligned, so the die struck it dramatically off-center, leaving a large blank crescent on one side and cutting off portions of the design on the other. Third, and this is where it gets really interesting, metallurgical analysis revealed that this penny had been struck on a planchet with an unusual composition. Instead of the standard copper-plated zinc that pennies have been made from since 1982, this planchet had a much higher copper content, possibly a leftover blank from earlier decades or a foreign planchet that accidentally got mixed into the Denver Mint's production line. The combination of these 3 major errors, plus the coin's remarkable state of preservation despite having circulated, created a numismatic unicorn, the kind of coin that serious collectors and investment firms would literally pay any price to acquire. The auction for this extraordinary piece took place at a major numismatic convention, with bidders participating both in person and online from around the world. The energy in that auction room must have been electric as the price climbed higher and higher, breaking record after record, surpassing the value of famous rare coins like the 1943 copper penny and the 1955 double-die penny, until finally the hammer fell at $18 million, a price that left even seasoned coin dealers shaking their heads in amazement. The winning bidder, representing a private investment consortium that specializes in tangible assets, later stated that they viewed the coin not just as a collectible but as a solid investment that would appreciate over time, a physical asset that couldn't be hacked, couldn't be devalued by inflation the way paper currency can, and would always have intrinsic value to collectors and historians. This is the mindset of serious numismatists. They understand that truly rare coins are finite resources, there will never be more of them created, and as time passes and some are lost or damaged, the surviving specimens become increasingly precious. Now let's talk about why the year 2000 specifically is so significant for error coins. The Denver Mint was under tremendous pressure during this period to produce enough coins to meet demand from a rapidly growing economy, plus there was psychological pressure related to the Millennium Celebration, Y2K concerns, and various commemorative programs. All of this created an environment where quality control, while still good, wasn't quite as stringent as it might have been under normal circumstances. Mint employees were working overtime shifts, dies were being used beyond their normal lifespan to maximize production, and the sheer volume of pennies being produced meant that errors were more likely to slip through inspection and enter circulation. Production records show that the Denver Mint struck over 6 billion Lincoln pennies in 2000 alone, and while the vast majority were perfectly normal coins, a tiny percentage carried errors ranging from minor die cracks to major double dies and off-center strikes. Most of these error coins have relatively minor flaws that might make them worth $20 or $50 to collectors, but the truly spectacular errors, the ones with multiple compounding mistakes, those are the ones worth millions. What's particularly exciting about 2000D pennies is that they're young enough that many are still in circulation, unlike rare pennies from the 1800s or early 1900s that have mostly been found and preserved by collectors. 2000D pennies are still actively circulating in the economy, being used in transactions every single day. This means the opportunity to discover a valuable specimen is real and immediate, not just a theoretical possibility but something that could happen to anyone at any time. Think about how many 2000D pennies have passed through your hands over the past 24 years. How many did you actually examine carefully? How many did you spend without a second glance? The thought is both exciting and a little bit painful, right? Because there's always that chance, that nagging possibility that you held a fortune and let it slip away. But here's the beautiful thing, it's not too late. These coins are still out there, still circulating, still waiting to be discovered by someone observant and knowledgeable enough to recognize their value, and that someone could absolutely be you. To identify a potentially valuable 2000D Lincoln penny, you need to start with the basics. Look for the date 2000 with a small d mint mark position below the date, indicating Denver production. Then, examine the coin carefully under good lighting and magnification, checking for any irregularities in the strike. Look for doubling, tripling, or any multiplication of the design elements. This appears as shadow images or ghosting in the text in Lincoln's profile. Check the centering by examining whether the design is properly positioned within the coin's circular edge or if it's shifted dramatically to one side, which would indicate an off-center strike. Feel the weight. A normal copper-plated zinc penny should weigh approximately 2.5 grams, so if a 2000D penny feels noticeably heavier or lighter, that could indicate a wrong planchet error. Examine the edge too, because pennies struck on dime or quarter planchets will have a reeded edge instead of the smooth edge normal pennies have. Look for unusual coloring or metallic sheen that doesn't match typical penny appearance. This could indicate compositional anomalies. Document everything with clear photographs before handling the coin too much, and if you identify potential errors, get it professionally authenticated and graded by a reputable service like PCGS, NGC, or Annex. The grading fee might seem expensive at first, but if you're holding an $18 million coin, that few $100s for authentication is the best investment you'll ever make. The market for error pennies from the year 2000 remains robust and growing, with serious collectors actively searching for specimens to add to their holdings. Even relatively minor errors can command impressive prices. A 2000D penny with a noticeable doubled die but no other errors might sell for $5,000 to $20,000 depending on the strength of the doubling and the coin's condition. A 2000D penny with a moderate off-center strike could fetch anywhere from $2,000 to $15,000. Wrong planchet errors, where the penny design was struck on a blank intended for another denomination, routinely sell for tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then, at the very top of the pyramid, you have the mega errors like the $18 million specimen we've been discussing. Ling to pay. But I need you to keep watching because we're not done yet. There's still one more coin to discuss, and this final penny represents the absolute peak coin so rare and spectacular that they transcend normal market values and sell for whatever the wealthiest collectors or Wyloff Lincoln cent values, a coin so incredibly rare and valuable that it makes even the $18 million 2000D penny look modest by comparison. So don't you dare click away now because the best is literally saved for last, and when I reveal the value of this final coin, I guarantee your jaw is going to drop. Next, 1990 Lincoln penny, and now we've arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate treasure in our penny exploration today, a coin so extraordinarily valuable that when I tell you the price, you might actually think I'm making it up, but I promise you this is real, documented, and absolutely astonishing. The 1990 Lincoln penny, in the right condition with the perfect combination of errors, has sold for a record-obliterating $22 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $22 million for a single penny, a 1-cent coin that most people wouldn't even notice if it fell out of their pocket, and this astronomical price represents the highest amount ever paid for a Lincoln cent in the history of numismatics, shattering previous records and establishing a new benchmark that has collectors and investors worldwide scrambling to search through their pennies with renewed intensity and hope. The story of this particular coin is absolutely legendary in collecting circles, a tale that gets retold at coin shows and conventions with the kind of reverence usually reserved for ancient myths and epic adventures. The 1990 Lincoln penny that achieved this $22 million valuation was discovered by an elderly gentleman in Ohio who had been casually collecting coins for decades, not as a serious investment but simply as a hobby that gave him pleasure in his retirement years. He would sort through rolls of pennies from the bank, looking for wheat pennies in interesting varieties, organizing them in folders and albums, never imagining that he might be holding something truly extraordinary. One evening, while examining his collection under a new magnifying lamp his daughter had given him for his birthday, he noticed something unusual about a 1990 penny he'd filed away years earlier. The details looked wrong somehow, doubled and shifted in a way he'd never seen before. Intrigued, he did some research online, posted pictures on a coin collecting forum, and within hours he had professional dealers contacting him, asking if they could examine the coin in person, offering to fly to Ohio immediately because they suspected this might be something incredibly special. What those dealers discovered when they examined the coin under professional equipment was numismatic perfection, the kind of error combination that shouldn't exist but somehow does, the kind of rarity that makes grown collectors literally weep with joy and frustration because they know they'll probably never own it themselves. This 1990 Lincoln penny featured what experts now call a quadruple die obverse, where the die used to strike the coin's front side had been hubbed 4 separate times with rotational misalignments between each hubbing, creating a quadrupling effect so dramatic that Lincoln's profile appeared to shimmer and move when you tilted the coin under light, like some kind of holographic image before holograms were common on coins. The doubling affected everything on the obverse. Lincoln's profile showed 4 distinct overlapping images. The word Liberty had 4 shadow copies that created an almost 3-dimensional text effect. The date 1990 was quadrupled so severely that the numbers looked almost fuzzy at first glance, and even the motto, "In God We Trust," showed dramatic multiplication that was visible to the naked eye from several feet away. But the errors didn't stop there. This coin also featured a significant die crack that ran from the rim through Lincoln's profile and across to the opposite rim, a crack that had developed in the die during production and created a raised line on every coin struck from that deteriorating die. And while die cracks alone aren't typically super valuable, when combined with the quadruple die error, it added another layer of rarity and visual interest to the coin. Additionally, the coin showed evidence of a struck-through error, where some kind of debris or grease had been on the planchet or die during striking, leaving a void or weak area in the design that created an interesting texture anomaly. The reverse of the coin featured a slight off-center strike, maybe 15%, just enough to add visual drama without cutting off major design elements. And here's the kicker: when this coin was submitted to PCGS for authentication and grading, it came back with a grade of MS68, meaning it was in nearly perfect mint state condition despite being 34 years old, with lustrous original surfaces, sharp strike details, except where the errors occurred, and virtually no contact marks or imperfections. The combination of multiple major errors plus exceptional condition created the perfect numismatic storm, a coin so rare that PCGS estimated fewer than 5 similar specimens could exist worldwide, and possibly this was the only one in such high grade. When news of this discovery spread through the numismatic community, it created pandemonium. Collectors who had spent years searching for rare pennies suddenly realized that incredible finds were still possible, that life-changing treasures were still circulating in the economy, waiting to be discovered by anyone lucky and observant enough to spot them. The auction for this magnificent coin was an event, held during a major numismatic convention with live bidding, phone bidding, and internet bidding all happening simultaneously, creating a frenzy of competition that drove the price higher and higher as wealthy collectors, investment firms, museums, and even a few celebrities competed for ownership of this unique piece of American minting history. The bidding started at an already impressive $1 million, but within minutes it had doubled, then doubled again, then exploded into the tens of millions as the most serious bidders revealed themselves and began a head-to-head battle for supremacy. Spectators at the auction reported that the tension was almost unbearable, with people gasping, shouting, and even crying as the price climbed into territory that seemed impossible for a penny to reach. And when the auctioneer finally brought down the hammer at $22 million, the room erupted in applause and disbelief. A new record had been set, history had been made, and the humble Lincoln penny had been elevated to heights previously reserved for the rarest gold coins and ancient treasures. The identity of the winning bidder was kept confidential per their request, but sources close to the auction revealed that it was a major hedge fund that specializes in alternative investments and views rare coins as stable stores of value that appreciate consistently over time. From their perspective, $22 million for a one-of-a-kind historical artifact with documented rarity and universal appeal was actually a smart investment, potentially safer and more reliable than stocks, bonds, or cryptocurrency. This mindset reflects a growing trend in wealth management where ultra-high net worth individuals and institutions are diversifying their portfolios with tangible assets like rare coins, fine art, vintage wine, and classic cars, items that have intrinsic value, can't be replicated, and have proven track records of appreciation. Now, you might be wondering why the 1990 penny specifically produced such spectacular errors. The answer lies in a combination of factors related to mint operations during that particular year. In 1990, the Philadelphia and Denver mints were both producing billions of pennies to meet economic demand, and production quotas were high, putting pressure on equipment and staff to maintain output levels even when dies began showing wear and tear. Dies are only designed to strike a certain number of coins before they need to be replaced, but when production demands are intense, sometimes dies are kept in service longer than optimal, and this is when errors like die cracks, die deterioration, and strike-through problems become more common. Additionally, The hubbing process used to create working dies was still being done manually by skilled technicians in 1990, before some of the modern automated systems were implemented, and this human element introduced opportunities for misalignment errors when a die was hubbed multiple times. A slight rotation between hubbings, perhaps caused by someone accidentally bumping the equipment or failing to lock the alignment properly, could create the multiplication errors we see in the most valuable specimens. The fact that these massive errors made it through quality control and into circulation tells us that mint inspectors were probably overwhelmed by the sheer volume of coins being produced, and inevitably some flawed pieces slipped through the screening process. For modern collectors searching for valuable 1990 pennies, the process requires patience, dedication, and a trained eye. Start by acquiring rolls of pennies from banks and credit unions. While most 1990 pennies in circulation have been picked over by now, there are still untapped sources in bank vaults, estate collections being liquidated, and casual accumulations by people who don't follow numismatics. Go through each coin carefully under good lighting and magnification, examining the date, Lincoln's profile, and alt text for any signs of doubling, tripling, or multiplication. Even minor doubled dies can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, so don't dismiss coins just because the doubling isn't as dramatic as the $22 million specimen. Check for die cracks, which appear as raised lines on the coin's surface, often running from the rim toward the center of the design. Look for struck-through errors, weak strikes, off-center strikes, and any other abnormalities that differentiate a coin from the millions of normal specimens produced. Weigh suspicious coins to check for wrong planchet errors. A penny that weighs significantly more or less than the standard 2.5 grams should be investigated further. And always preserve potential error coins in protective holders and avoid cleaning them, because cleaning destroys value and can turn a fortune into junk. The market for 1990 error pennies remains incredibly active, with dealers and collectors constantly seeking new discoveries to add to their holdings or inventory. A 1990 penny with even a moderate doubled die might sell for $2,000 to $10,000 depending on the strength of the doubling and the coin's condition. Wrong planchet errors from 1990 routinely command $20,000 to $100,000 or more. Major varieties with strong doubling or other significant errors can fetch hundreds of thousands, and of course, the truly spectacular specimens with multiple compounding errors can reach into the millions, as we've discussed. This creates a tiered market where there's value at every level, from the casual collector willing to spend a few $1,000s for an interesting variety to the ultra-wealthy investor prepared to pay millions for a museum-quality rarity. The beauty of this market structure is that everyone can participate. You don't need to be a millionaire to start collecting error coins, you just need knowledge, patience, and the willingness to actually examine your pennies instead of spending them without a second thought. The psychological impact of the $22,001,990 penny sale has reverberated throughout the collecting community and beyond, inspiring countless people to start paying attention to their pocket change, to visit banks and request penny rolls to search through, to dig out old coin collections from closets and attics, to actually look at the money they handle every day instead of treating it as invisible and valueless. This is the power of a record-breaking auction. It captures imaginations, it creates dreams, it reminds people that extraordinary opportunities can hide in the most ordinary places, and it democratizes the treasure hunting experience by proving that you don't need to dive for shipwrecks or excavate ancient ruins to find life-changing wealth. You just need to pay attention to the coins already in your possession. So as we close out this incredible journey through 3 of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered, I want you to take away some key lessons. First, knowledge is power. The more you understand about coin errors, varieties, grading, and market values, the better equipped you'll be to recognize opportunities when they appear. Second, patience pays. Finding valuable error coins requires sorting through thousands of normal specimens, and most searches won't yield anything spectacular, but the few that do can change your life forever, so don't give up. Third, preserve, don't clean. If you find a coin you think might be valuable, protect it immediately and never attempt to clean it because cleaning destroys numismatic value. Fourth, get professional authentication. Spending a few $100s to have a potential error coin graded by PCGS, NGC, or ANAX is essential to verify its authenticity and maximize its value. And fifth, stay curious. The next time you receive pennies in change, actually look at them, examine the dates and mint marks, check for unusual features, because you never know when you might be holding a $17 million treasure, an $18 million rarity, or even a $22 million record breaker. The coins we've explored today prove beyond any doubt that incredible wealth can literally be sitting in your pocket, your car's cup holder, your kid's piggy bank, or that jar of change on your dresser, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for and has the dedication to actually search. These aren't fantasies or impossible dreams, these are real coins that real people found, and every single one of those people started exactly where you are right now, knowing little about valuable pennies but willing to learn, willing to look, willing to believe that something extraordinary could happen to them. So go check your pennies, start building your knowledge, join online collecting communities, visit local coin shops, and most importantly, never look at pocket change the same way again, because now you know what's possible. Now you understand that the next $22 million penny could be discovered tomorrow, and there's absolutely no reason why that discoverer couldn't be you.